this long introduction. I hope we don't keep doing that. The mayor of Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly or his representative, the Honorable Sampain, the UNDP Ghana resident representative, Dr. Angela Lusigi, Codewo Advisory Board Chair, Reverend Dr. Fred Degbe, members of Codewo Advisory Board who are here, and the National Coordinator, Mr. Ayen, Honorable Members of Parliament, the Ashanti Regional Director for Elections, the MCs or DCs who are here, political party representatives who are here. I hope we have some political party representatives who are here. If they are here, if they will raise their hand, unless they are campaigning. Okay. We need our parties, to be part of these deliberations, so we hope that they will join us. Colleagues from the CSO fraternity, friends of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a very, very good morning. I'm really glad to be here in Kumasi, and I was telling my friend that I'm looking forward to eating some good fufu, so I'll have good memories when I'm going back. Now, on behalf of the Citizen Coalition, I welcome you to this regional stakeholder roundtable discussion on assessing and empowering stakeholders for credible and peaceful upcoming elections in Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, Ghana is often considered a beacon of democracy
Recording
in
in
Africa
progress.
and has consistently demonstrated its commitment to peaceful and credible elections since its return to multi-party democracy in the early 1990s. And we have successfully held 7 general elections since the difficult elections of 1992, which has resulted in 3 peaceful transfers of power from one political party to another. And to say that this is not an easy feat, and it's something that we should be proud of, over the 30 years that under the Fourth Republic. Indeed, the 2024 general election will mark Ghana's 9th election since the Fourth Republic. Local assembly elections will also come off on December 17th this year, and it has also been an integral part of our democratic landscape since 1998. And it demonstrates our commitment to democratic governance. Now, however, like any democracy, it faces challenges that require continuous attention and efforts to maintain and improve the integrity and the transparency of its electoral processes. So this constant vigilance and improvement are also imperative given the challenges that African countries continue to face with election integrity, transparency, and peace. Ladies and gentlemen, in July 2022, when leading CSOs in the country came together with a number of prominent Ghanaians, including the now late Akoto Ampao, and may his soul rest in perfect peace, we launched the Coalition for Democratic Accountability and Inclusive Governance, now commonly known as the Citizen Coalition. We were clear in our conviction that it was imperative to establish a culture of accountable and transparent governance that actively and consciously responds to the demands of citizens and promotes constitutionalism, inclusivity, human rights, and national interest. That if we were to build the Ghana we want and maintain our status as a beacon of democracy and in the sub. I think these days, and we just had a conversation about people getting frustrated about democracy and feeling that alternatives to democracy, are better. Some places you see people go out when there's a coup d'etat. So these conversations are critical, and we need to continue to engage so that we make sure that democracy works for the people of Ghana. We were also very clear that the issues of general misgovernance, the lack of accountability, the abuse of power, and impunity on the parts of our political elites, if not checked, will continue to pose an ever-increasing existential threat to our democracy. That it would embolden misguided political actors and elements, and even sections of the population, particularly young people, who see no relief in the existing state of affairs, to consider inappropriate, disruptive, and authoritarian alternatives to constitutional democracy. And in fact, the rise of coups accompanied by the initial civilian support and the dissatisfaction with the way democracy works across Africa undermines citizen confidence in democratic governance, raising alarm bells that it should not be ignored. So for us at the coalition, we find ourselves at a critical juncture with less than 2 months until Ghana's local assembly elections and almost a year until the presidential elections. We believe it is incumbent on us to ensure that we examine the general performance of state institutions and electoral stakeholders going into the upcoming elections, and to rebuild trust in our electoral processes, foster citizen engagement, and ensure a free and fair, transparent electoral outcome. In the spirit, we, the coalition, in collaboration with CODEO, have partnered with the general support of the UNDP to host this roundtable. Ladies and gentlemen, our decision to hold this event in Kumasi, the very vibrant heart of Ashanti region, is not because of the fufu, but it's to align perfectly with our dedication to fostering inclusive democracy. For us, it is essential that we have to take these important decisions and discussions to the grassroots level where citizens are most directly involved in the electoral process. By so doing, we aim to engage more deeply with communities and stakeholders who are the core of our democracy. And this approach allows us to ensure that every voice, no matter the region, is heard and considered in the shaping of our electoral processes. Before I end, let me take a moment to acknowledge the support of UNDP, whose resident reps and other high-level staff are here represented today. Your support has been instrumental in making today's event possible, and we are deeply grateful for your commitment, shared vision. And in closing, I wish to underscore the importance of the topics that we are addressing today. Electoral fairness and credibility are not just matters for politicians. And let me stress, electoral fairness and credibility are not just matters for politicians. They are fundamental to peace, national development, and the prosperity of every citizen. As we examine this issue, let us remember that we all have a role to play in safeguarding our democracy. An engaged and informed citizenry is the cornerstone of a healthy and thriving democratic nation. Personally look forward to the enlightenment. Thanks for the attention.
And thank you very much, sir, for addressing us. His name, as I've already mentioned, is Dr. Pumpuni Asante, and he'll be coming back again in a bit to do a presentation on lessons from recent electoral activities in Ghana and in other parts of Africa and their implications for the 2024 general elections coming up next year. Ladies and gentlemen, please, one more time, a round of applause for Doc for me. Thank you so much. So, Doc, I'm taking the advice you gave. You know, the profiles are long. People have achieved so much. Even that of our next, speaker is longer than that of Doc's. I was going through it and I was like, when can I even get there? The schools and all the degrees and all the things that a man has attained for himself is enormous. Ladies and gentlemen, please, we're going to be now presented with some remarks from CODEO. So please show him some love. Put your hands together for Reverend Dr. Fred Degbe, CODEO's Advisory Board Chair, as he brings to us some remarks from CODEO. And those of you who want to see his profile, I have it right here with me. So, when... Oh, shall I do better with the applause for me, please? The man has achieved, though. So let's show him some love. Thank you so much.
Thank you, MC, for sparing me and sparing yourself and sparing all of us. So I'll simply say, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm delighted to be here to come after my brother Kojo Asante to bring you this greeting. We, the members of the advisory committee, are glad to be here with you and are particularly grateful that you are here for us to talk about the issue at stake. Sorry. I know you are here because elections are an essential component of every democracy. Elections must be free and fair in order to reflect the will of the people. But it is not easy to make sure that election procedures are transparent. It requires commitment, persistent watchfulness, and the combined efforts of many, many stakeholders, and I'm sure you know. So the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODEO, was established to safeguard the integrity of election procedures in Ghana. CODEO's mission at its core is a mission of unwavering commitment to the values of democracy, transparency, and the critical importance of citizen participation in the electoral process. We firmly stand for the principles of free, fair, transparent, and credible elections in Ghana. For over 2 decades, CODEO has been at the forefront of election observation in our country, providing valuable insights and critical assessments of the electoral process. CODEO has helped to enhance the electoral environment by making valuable recommendations based on its observations, as well as considerably increasing citizen participation in the country's electoral processes. Indeed, our role is not confined to that of mere observers. It extends to that of guardians of the democratic ideals that Ghana cherishes. We work diligently to ensure that democratic process is free and fair, so as to increase the level of trust and confidence that Ghanaians have in the country's electoral system. I mean by that, you can say you are observing, but you are looking on, something is going wrong, you are looking, something is going right, you are looking. That's not what we do. We go beyond that. Yes, we observe, but we also make recommendations, and like everybody, to keep our eyes open and make sure that it's free, fair, credible. It is within this spirit of dedication to our democratic values that we are partnering with the Citizens Coalition to organize this stakeholder engagement. The coalition, like CODEO, is driven by the ambition to strengthen democracy in Ghana. Together, we aim to engage in meaningful dialogue, critically examining the challenges that our democracy faces today and seeking out solutions to remedy the situation. Every year, every election has its challenges, but we are the citizens, and we must make sure we rise to the occasion. In collaboration, our collaboration stems from our shared responsibility as stakeholders in the democratic process. We cherish you. Through collaboration, we believe we can amplify the positive impact we have on Ghana's democratic landscape. Ladies and gentlemen, this event serves as an opportunity to harness our collective expertise, experiences, and insights to ensure the continued credibility of our electoral process. The upcoming local government elections in December 2023 and the 2024 general elections are crucial moments for our democracy. We must ensure that all stakeholders are adequately prepared and that our electoral system remains transparent and credible. Electoral credibility significantly contributes to peace and, by extension, to national development. Peaceful elections of power, trust in democratic institutions like the Electoral Commission, and citizens' confidence in the electoral process create a conducive environment for democracy to thrive. The absence of election-related violence and disputes allows for continuity in governance, leading to the implementation of long-term development projects that benefit all Ghanaians. That is what we all want, a Ghana that is fruitful, productive, and prosperous. I thank each of you for making the commitment to be here, not only to listen, but to continue to play your part of ensuring that we do a credible and a feasible election. Together, we can impact the future of Ghana's democracy in electoral processes. Let us embrace this opportunity to work together to ensure credible, transparent, and peaceful elections in Ghana. And I would say, God bless our homeland, Ghana, and make our nation great and strong. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. And thank you for carrying the news around and being active participants. Thank you, MC.
Listen, I think he deserves one more round of applause. Reverend Dr. Fred Egbe there. God bless you, sir. And, you know, if you listen carefully to his, address to us, he made mention of the fact that they don't just go there and observe, but they do the observation and make recommendations. What popped up in my mind was, when they do the recommendations, what do we do with the recommendations? Do we work with the recommendations? Because in as much as, like Dr. Pumpuni Asante said, we've had 8 successful elections. People are, happy for what we've been able to attain and achieve. We can pat ourselves on the back and say, job well done. It has not gone without a bit of violence, pocket violence in there. And I was telling the doctor this morning about, Ayawaso, the by-election and what happened. Question is, what lessons are we learning from this going forward? So once you're here, please be mindful of the things that are being said. You have notebooks or notepads with you. Jot down some points. Questions when the open forum comes on. Let's all do this together. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Mr. PV Jantwa, who's right there with us. PV, please show him some love for me. An amazing young man. He is, yes, he's very young. And then the MCU for Furukro, Kwame Nchi is also right here. Kwame, good morning to you. And to all of you, thanks very much for making time to be with us. So when Dr. Bodo Pumpuni Asante was, talking to us, he said a big thank you to the UNDP for their support. He mentioned the name of a very fine lady, and indeed, she's very fine, I'm talking about Dr. Angela Luisigi. She's a UNDP resident representative. She's got a few words for us as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for her. I'd want her to sit or stand where she is and grab the microphone and speak, but I want to see how she walks. So as she walks to take the microphone from me, please give some love. A round of applause for her one more time. Thank you so much.
What an introduction. I would like to recognize the dignitaries at the high table, representing Citizen Coalition, CODEO, CDD, and I would also like to recognize the distinguished representatives of national and local government, as well as CSOs who are in the audience and the media. I'd like to stand on all protocols. Good morning. It is such a pleasure to join you all today, and I commend CDD-Ghana for bringing us together here in Kumasi on this very important dialogue, because we'd like to share our ideas on the upcoming local elections, as well as shaping Ghana's general elections in 2024. I'd also like to recognize the vibrant civil society organizations who are already playing an important role in promoting peaceful, transparent, and credible elections in Ghana. As we all know, an election is not an event, but a cycle. And as civil society organizations, you play a vital role in ensuring continuous civic education and support for the participation of underrepresented groups, including youth, women, and people living with disabilities. Ladies and gentlemen, this roundtable discussion today is important in helping Ghana to maintain, as was said, its democratic credentials and leadership in the region and also globally. We need to focus on the lessons we are taking from the last elections, but most importantly, we need to build on what is already working. It is time to harness the capability and passion of civil society organizations to deepen engagement with the Electoral Commission, political parties, media, private sector, youth, women, and development partners. The use of digital technology in the last elections is definitely a strong building block for addressing challenges that are mushrooming related to misinformation and hate speech, even as we continue to champion the needed reforms and best practices to strengthen Ghana's democratic credentials. We know that around the world, elections are one of the major triggers of violence, and our region is no different. We've already seen some democratic reversals in the sub-region in the past few years, from contestations around elections and electoral outcomes. We are keen to take stock and learn lessons from others so that we can improve transparency and acceptability of election outcomes in Ghana. Ghana remains one of the shining stars and a beacon of democracy in this region. However, recent developments threaten the backbone of democracy and the record of peaceful elections in Ghana. There are evolving tensions, misunderstandings, and pockets of violence that have marred recent elections. And with the local elections coming up in December, it is time to change this negative trajectory. I join numerous leaders from across the political, religious, and traditional spectrum to call on everyone to commit to dialogue, building consensus, and peaceful means of resolving differences and misunderstanding. Through this platform today, we can create a safe space to engage and co-create the future we want together. Our future is in the hands of young people. And I challenge young people across Ghana to activate the third level of the Decade of Action, which is people action, to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. If you work together, you can create an unstoppable force that will promote peace, inclusion, and accelerate development in this country. Bring your energetic exuberance on board to make the Sustainable Development Goal number 16, which is on peaceful and cohesive society, and make it a reality in Ghana. We need more young women and men in leadership to shape the future of Ghana. Unfortunately, too few young people are actively participating in decision-making, either through presenting themselves as candidates or as active voters. Let me give you an example. While 55% of Ghana's voter population is youthful, only 12 out of the 155 who were elected to parliament in the last election were youth. This represents 4.36% of parliamentarians. And this is a reduction from the 13 youth, which is 4.75%, who won parliamentary elections in 2016. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me close by assuring you of UNDP's continued commitment to support and work with the government and people of Ghana, as well as all stakeholders, to uphold the rule of law, human rights, and effective and accountable institutions. We are invested in engaging before, during, and after Election Day to enhance meaningful participation, eradicate political vigilantism, and promote peaceful and accepted elections so that Ghana continues to prosper. Thank you for your kind attention, and I wish us all fruitful deliberations. I'm also looking forward to the fufu. Long live Ghana.
Well, thank you very much, ma'am. And like I mentioned a while ago, her name is Dr. Angela Lusigi, UNDP residence representative. And we're glad to have had you with us this morning. And yes, she says she's looking forward to the fufu. I know a very fine place there. Don't worry, I would invite you. But listen keenly to your address and challenging the youth to, avail themselves for such elections and positions. I think I asked that question of Doctor this morning. We have unfortunately monetized our elections. And so if money has come to play, how many young people have that kind of money to be able to put themselves up and say, listen, I have good intentions, I can do the job, vote for me. Barely 24 hours ago, a sitting MP in Ghana says he has stashed dollars, plenty dollars, and that if somebody pays 20,000, he's prepared to double it. Well, I can call myself a youth. If you don't agree with me, fine. But the bottom line is I don't have the kind of money they have to put myself up for elections and to do well for this country. But that's one of the reasons why we're gathered here today, to deliberate, to talk, to be candid and sincere and open on these things. Ladies and gentlemen, please one more time, a round of applause for all our speakers. I would plead with you and say that if you don't have a pen, raise your hand, we'll furnish you with one, we'll give you a pen. If you don't have any writing pad, we'll give you a writing pad. I'm asking that, and gentlemen, Emmanuel and Co, please give them pads, give them notepads, give them, pens. Because there's going to be a presentation right now, and I want us as much as possible to listen keenly to the presentation. If something touches or catches your attention, note it down. If it's a question you want to ask, note the question, because we will give you the opportunity to ask questions after the presentation. And the presentation is going to be lessons from recent electoral activities in Ghana and in other parts of Africa and their implications for the 2024 general elections. The presentation, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be done by Dr. Kojo Pupuni Asante. Show him some love. A round of applause for him as he does the presentation. Thank you so much. ask all of you one more time, I'm begging of you, put your phones on silent or on vibrate, please. Thank you.
David, are we set to go?
In a minute, we'll be ready, sir.
So I'm wondering, I hope everybody is comfortable with the English. If not me, I can try and mix it too.
You haven't eaten fufu yet, too. So I don't know whether the tree will flow the way.
You know me, I speak tree once a year. No, because I really want us to engage. So I don't want any impediments.
So no, before you start, please indulge me. Let me do something very quick, but very, very important. I'd like to ask all our, important guests to take the seats in front of us so they can follow the presentation, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thanks for tolerating me with my bald head and all. I'm grateful.
Okay. All right. So my presentation, bit about the background and the context. I think the speeches is already talked about that, so we won't spend too much of our time on that. And then I really want to talk about the good news. Basically, we've done a lot since 1993, and I think we have to acknowledge that, and as Dr. Lusigi said, build on the things that work, but then also to move to what is the challenges and really is why we are here, to identify those challenges and try and see if we can work on it before we get into the next election. And then some recommendations for key stakeholders. So generally, our sense is that all our analysis is that 2024 general election is likely to be more contentious than we've had in previous elections. And for a simple reason. Often when you are getting to the second term of a government, because we've been playing this 8-year rule for a while, there is this expectation that it's our time. You have served your 8 years, so it's our time. And the incumbent is also trying to stay in power. And we know the MPP chanting the break the eight, and so on. But every 8-year cycle presents really challenging elections, and you can go back, to all the elections, whether it's 2000, 2008, 2016, and so on and so forth. So that already makes it a very, very difficult election. And then also recent events, elections in the sub-region, have underscored the fragility of democratic institutions and processes. I was in Nigeria, I was in Sierra Leone, I was in Kenya, and elections are always a trigger for violence and instability if it doesn't go well. And we know what has happened in other places where there have been coup d'etats and so on. So we have a reason to be cautious and to really be proactive in trying to get election integrity. So this presentation will just highlight Ghana's electoral journey, our challenges and issues, and the lessons that we can draw from other countries. So what have we done well? The electoral process has undergone several reforms since 1992. And you recall that in 1992, the opposition, the MPP at the time, boycotted the elections and didn't participate in the. They didn't participate in the. Was it the parliamentary or the presidential? Parliamentary, yes. So basically, we had a one party, technically a one-party parliament, even though there were smaller parties there for at least 4 years. And then they wrote the stolen verdicts. I should go back and get a copy of the stolen verdict, whether all the issues that were raised, how many of them we have addressed in the stolen verdict. Mr. Ahe is here, so you have a copy. I'm sure you have a copy somewhere. So they wrote the stolen verdict, but that led to a raft of reforms. And I have to congratulate the political class and, citizens and, elites who forged that consensus, because a lot of the foundations of the electoral reforms that we had came from, that experience. So we passed the Electoral Commission Act. We set up the Inter-Party Advisory Committee, IPAC, which has served us so well over the years, but I'll come back to IPAC and the current challenges that we are having with IPAC. IPAC has been copied across Africa, and some have even advanced in terms of the way they use IPAC. Then the compilation of a new voter register where we had now photo IDs, the use of both thumbprint and photo identification, the use of, transparent ballot boxes, the counting of votes and declaration of results immediately after voting. These are things that we take for granted now, but before that was not the case. And in other countries, that is still a problem in those countries. Now, regardless of the strides made in reforming Ghana's electoral process, the results of the 2012 presidential elections were challenged at the Supreme Court. This was for the first time. So you recall that, if you take our trajectory, so 96, 2000, 2004, 2008, and so on, we didn't go to the courts. And in 2012, this was the first time everybody was wondering what was going to happen. But that was also an important step in deepening our own democracy, because the whole idea of the courts was that even if you felt aggrieved, that you can go to the courts and the courts will resolve that conflict. And we did that in 2012, even though it took 8 months for that election petition to be completed and the whole country basically was on autopilot or some sort of experience that we had. It was televised. That was the other thing, that the whole process was televised in a transparent way, also deepening our democracy. Now, what was even critical of that process was the Supreme Court made recommendations for reform of the electoral process. So that the compilation of a register must be made available to parties as early as possible, that we have to get for supplementary registers, that we have to improve the caliber of presiding officers, simplify the pink sheets, and then late closing of polls and so on. That led to a 10-member electoral reform committee that was set up by Dr. Afari-Jan, and they proposed a number of reforms or implemented a number of reforms. Then we had the establishment of a National Collation Center to replace the strong room. Remember the strong room? And then the use of biometric verification devices for voter registration and exhibition exercise. That was very important, the introduction of technology. And remember 2012, no verification, no vote. Yeah, it brought the whole process to a halt, right? So it was not a difficult, it was not an easy transition to happen. Liberia just implemented their biometric verification process, registration process. But since that time, biometric registration and verification had become the order of the day. What it did was that it addressed the issue of double registration. So you remember that was always an issue, people registering, now if you do that, you get caught. And also ballots because of the verification process. But people used to just add ballots at the end of the and count more. Now that you couldn't do that with the introduction of technology. The institutionalization of the IPAC advisory committee meetings, it became a very regular feature of the EC calendar. The raising of the minimum educational qualification for presiding officers, election officials. So under Madam Charlotte says, which I think in 2016, now you needed a degree to be a presiding officer. And then you also have to swear before a magistrate. So that was one of the recommendations that came from the Supreme Court. The taking of an oath of electoral official before a judicial officer, serial numbering of all statement of polls. You remember the pink sheet and Dr. Baumia's pink sheet, you know. So now every pink sheet have a serial number that you have to be able to check every single that they match, the booklet matched. Improved training of election officials and commission staff, and then the reduction of voters per polling station from I think about 1,000 to 700, or is it 800 then? Yes. And that helped improve the queue management process, because remember we had places where, in urban areas where there's a lot of people, at 5 they still had a lot of people in queue. But if you observe 2016, 2020, by 4 o'clock, most people have voted, right? So that was because we were just reducing the number of polling stations, number of voters per polling station, thereby increasing the polling stations. And now the Electoral Commission is trying to reduce it further to 500, right? And I think that has been a great improvement, at least in terms of organizing elections. So, I mean, if you look at that, we have done quite well. We have done quite, and it's important that we continue to build on it. Now, what are the challenges that are still outstanding that we have to address? So, we've always talked about the appointment of EC officers, the commission, right? The constitution of the committee, all kinds of reports that have come out. How should we do it? Should we get Parliament to give two-thirds approval of the commissioners? Currently, as it is the president that appoints. And since 1992, where all the commissioners were appointed under the Rawlings regime, this is the first time we've had a situation where all the commissioners have been appointed by one president. So then there's always that concern about the independence of the Electoral Commission. At least in the period between 1996, 2000, particularly between 2000 and 2016, there's always this suggestion, okay, well, I also have my people there, so if there's anything at all, I also appointed some people. But now we are going to an election where everybody is appointed by one president. So that has already raised certain concerns. But what has even raised more concern was the recent appointment of 3 new commissioners to replace those who had gone on retirement, and 2 of them having party affiliation. And Kodeo had concern to raise issues with that, because the Constitution is only the Electoral Commission and the appointment to the Electoral Commission where the Constitution says that the appointment should be done on the advice of the Council of State. In all other commissions, independent bodies under the Constitution, is in consultation. So it is clear in the language of the Constitution that the only body that is to supervise and regulate competition between parties has to be non-partisan. And it's a very simple logic. Because if you want to make it a partisan organization, then you have to make sure that every political party that's registered has a representation, so that they can all say we are all there. So in the past, there has been a strong effort. And you remember, every time somebody is appointed, somebody will say, oh, somebody's biased, so it shouldn't be there. And there has been a balance that we've managed, but we've never had a situation where somebody that is known to be a party person appointed. So this is the situation we had. And Kodeo, we have raised concerns with it. The issue still remains unresolved. How are we going to deal with it going into the election? Because we don't want the situation where somebody will say, because so and so is there, we can trust the results. And that is an issue that we have to deal with. And if we think that we want to go the partisan way because there are other examples across Africa where you have an IPAC type system. The IPAC, that is the commission, but it means that every political party has a representation and they can all make decisions. But if you want an independent process, then basically you have to appoint people who don't have party affiliations, whether perceived or not. And then maybe to safeguard it, they need to have parliamentary approval so that at least we know that there's a bi-party support. Dr. Sugi comes from, so she'll probably tell us a bit more about what happens there. So that's an issue that is a reform issue that to keep addressing. I was in Nigeria, and this issue became an issue even at regional level. And after the elections, people were then pointing that, oh, these things happen in this state because these political appointed to the commission were, and that's why states didn't get there in time. And that's why we couldn't vote on time. So these things are you have to take them very serious because perceptions of bias can all degenerate or create concerns and lead to violence. So we have to address them. Vote buying and monetization. When we did, we were saying that it's 100 million run the presidency if you serious run. These days, I think the 100 million probably is not enough. But think about it. If you have to raise 100 million to become president in Ghana, when you get to power, what are you going to do to pay back all that money? We are not talking about cities. 100 million. But as I'm saying, even the 100 million USD, 100 million, no, I'm not quite sure it's enough. Because the last time Mr. Atuahoy was doing a calculation, I think one of the forums, and if I have to buy pickups for every district, as a president candidate, 200 constituency. So 275 pickups. How much is one pickup now? That's just a pickup. You haven't done billboards. You haven't done money. So if you are calculating, this is the kind of expenditure that we are talking about. Parliamentarians, when we did it at that time, was 4 billion. But somebody said that they are paying 20,000 for 1,200 delegates. That's even if his competitors are going to go that way, he's prepared to double it for a parliamentary seat. That is, all that will happen is that if I go and do a galamsey, I make my money, then I'll go and join a political party and try and get access to power. When that person is in parliament, he's not interested in your issues. So we make a mockery of the democracy, and then we'll come and say the democracy is not working because the democracy has been captured for personal purposes. So this is a serious issue. Now, even within the parties, if you are a party manager, you are organized, you don't have a say. It's the people who have money that have a say. So you can say that so and so should not do this. No, nobody will mind you. You don't pay them. Even party office, somebody's paying for it. So you are chairman, so what? And when you do that, these parties cannot function. They cannot be a force for development. They cannot organize and discipline people. And whatever, as they say, garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you put in the party, that's the party that's going to govern. So when you are seeing that people are corrupt, why should you be worried? Because in the party, Even the constituency chairman is keeping the register in his house. So when they say go and do national elections, and he's trying to do something, he's already learning from his party. So we need to look at what is happening in our internal party system, because all those parties are governments in waiting. That's if we want democracy. Then our parties have to act right. And we have to deal with monetization of elections. We don't even have campaign periods. So the campaign starts as soon as the elections results are announced. Then people start planning and they will spend. They say, oh, you have to nurture the constituency. So for three years, you are paying and paying and paying and paying until the actual primaries. Where are you going to find all the money to do all of that? Abuse of incumbency. So depending on whether you're opposition or incumbent, abuse of incumbency is nice. The president can decide that he's touring Ghana in an election year 3 times. He wants to go and open projects. He won't use one money of his. He will use even his personal money for just moving from place to place. He will use money under the pretext that he's opening projects and campaign throughout. And we say we are having competitive elections if that is going on. Where are the rules? What can you do? What can you not do? So that everybody abide by the same rules. Everybody takes advantage of it. And when they are out of power, then they complain. It doesn't serve our interests. Right? Because at the end, we are using public money for private purposes. When the individual becomes a president, it's his personal ambition. It's his personal ambition. Right? So we need to do something about incumbency abuse, low voter education. We have 2 months to DLE. I don't know. Have you heard jingles? Where are the platforms for campaigning? Yeah. We are in a country, the KMA, I'm sure some of the KMA people are here. Please, how many women are in the assembly? You are in Kumasi. You are in Kumasi, where I'm sure there are more women than men. And the whole assembly is full of men. There's only one woman. And you are making decisions on breast cancer, all women issues. How is that inclusive? Over 6,000 assembly members, and there are only 460 women. And meanwhile, this is supposed to be the easiest access for participation. So there's something wrong. We are not doing this well at all. And we know that if women are at the grassroots, they will improve the governance system. Because the decisions we are taking that they are implementing, it will help children, it will help, So that every time that statistic I hear, I get worried. And unfortunately, we haven't done anything about it. And it's likely that it will continue because the parties have already had their primaries for the non-partisan district level election. And they would have chosen all men to go and run. So we'll have the same problem. All the young people that should be getting, and they are in the majority, will not also have an opportunity. So there's a problem if we don't get our local government right. And the way we treat the elections already suggests that we don't care about it. But if we get it right, democracy will come to our doorsteps. So it is really a big question. I mean, we are just very close. What can we do to get more participation and interest in the DLE? Also, results management and announcement. We know all what happened in 2020, and I've made the point that at least in the last 2 elections, we've done well from the beginning of the election to counting declaration at the polling station. Now, when we have to do collation, announcement of results, then everything becomes a problem. Some of the issues that we have to deal with has to do with how do we address mistakes. So somebody is writing 4,122. He has to write it in letters and then write it in numbers. 4,022. Okay, he's made a mistake. How do you correct it? These people say, let's do it this way. That person say, let's do it that way. There's a fight. Before you know, hey, they are cheating. Some people have heard that they are cheating. They come there. This happened all over in 2020. We have to fix that problem. It's a very simple problem, but we have to fix it, and we'll talk about it in terms of some of the reforms. But the whole resource management process we have to look at, because that is the only place where we are now lacking currently in terms of this electoral structure. Electoral violence and vigilantism. We passed the Vigilantism and Related Offences Act after Ayawaso, West Wagon, and so on. What has become of it? I was in Asin North, and I saw vigilantes in tracks. Meanwhile, we were told that there will not be any vigilante there. Politicians were working and said, oh, these are my boys. And they seem to all go to the same gym. When you see them, you know that, these are vigilantes. But now they're giving them a different name. They are boys. But we know there's going to be a problem if everybody is going to go and mobilize their boys to go and observe the election. So how are we going to enforce that legislation that we passed? How committed are we to stop electoral violence? Misinformation and disinformation. We know what goes on, whether through radio, social media, and so on. These days, with AI, people can even create your own image. You are talking. You are there, everybody's seeing you talking, but it's not you. How are we going to deal with that? And a lot of that is going to be used for all kinds of reasons when elections are coming. How do we educate people so that they can decipher through these things? And the last issue that has become a big issue is election adjudication. So 2012, we were triumphant. Election, the loser says, I'm going to court. Court has a judgment. The loser says, I've accepted. Everything goes on well. The next time, another person goes to court. They say, okay, I've accepted. After the third time, they say, this time around, I'm not accepting. This time around, I think there's a problem. I don't like the way the judges look. I don't like the way the thing went. But this is happening not just in Ghana, but across Africa, because as more and more election disputes go to the courts, now the spotlight is on the courts. Who is the judge sitting on it? Whose brother is he related to? Which party does he come from? This and that. So we have to also now pay attention to the election adjudication process, because if our conflict mitigation processes and platforms don't work, then you know that where you are going is violence. If people say we won't go to court because we don't trust the court, then where do you go? And it's happened in Sierra Leone. It just happened in Sierra Leone. They said they won't go to court. There's fear of violence. Now the UN and other actors are trying to mediate a dialogue. But then what are you going to do with the trust in the courts? How are you going to repair that? Because that is your institutional mechanism for addressing conflict. So this is another issue now we have to deal with. We say we want people to go to court if they are aggrieved. Now they go to court, we are having problems too there. All right? So, some recommendations. We at CODEO have continued to appeal to the new members of the EC to resign. People say, they will resign, oh. They won't do anything. Well, it's not just CODEO's interests. I think we have to understand that if we create that specter, that situation, and it becomes part of us, nobody should be surprised if somebody goes to appoint their general secretary as a commissioner. Yeah, because what stops them? And all they will say is that, but when this person appointed, what did you do? So we together, as a society, as a populace, as a country, have to decide, what do we want? If you want a partisan electoral commission, then do it properly. If you want an independent electoral commission, then do it properly. Don't leave this ambiguity so that you create confusion. Because getting elections wrong can have real damaging effects. Now, also take the lessons from the recent BVR exercise to improve registration. Remember that there was a CI that was taken by the Electoral Commission to Parliament. After back and forth, it's still not gone through. Parliament said, okay, fine. We think that we should still keep the guarantor system. But let's make the national ID card, as your main source of ID. But keep the guarantor system. In the recent, based on the statistics that the Electoral Commission gave, I think 50% or so was done by guarantor system. 61. Now, our Electoral Commission thinks there's abuse. And I'm sure there will be some abuse. But who caused some? Because by keeping it at the districts, you are giving the initiative to the parties to bus people there. And when they are busing people there, they are the ones that are going to provide the guarantee for people. But also remember, if you need two guarantees, and we are talking about 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds who have just, if you are living somewhere, I don't know, you are in Ashanti, some far place, are you going to pay for yourself and your guarantors to follow you to go to the capital to go and register? And if you're not able to register, are you going to pay for them to go back and come back the next day? These things, these impediments, just encourage this process. But it is also very clear that the guarantor system is needed because there are many people who still haven't gotten the card. So whatever we are saying, I think the Electoral Commission's advocacy around phasing this out is very good, and everybody supports it. But we have to also deal with the realities on the ground and come to some appreciation of how are we going to phase this thing out. Because I've seen all the data over the years. At the minimum, even for national elections, even if you're not only doing 18-year-olds, even for national elections, it's about 30%. And you look at many African countries who even have advanced ID systems, they're still guarantor system because you can't really eliminate it. The only thing is that how do you stop the abuse? We have said that, well, in the NIA card process, you have to go and sign an affidavit. And if we found out that, you have lied or whatever, you can be prosecuted for it. Let's use that system. If it's fine for the ID card, the national ID card, then it should be fine for the Electoral Commission. Because at the end, it's the national ID card that we are using as identity for the Electoral Commission. So why are we just going in circles? And that's becoming a block to the Electoral Commission getting its CI through, so that at least we know for registration we are done with it. We will be doing registration again come next year. We need to sort these things out quickly so that we can move forward and concentrate on other reforms. So for me, as I said, we should learn from the PVR process. Also, to step up efforts to increase public awareness about the DLE and talk a bit about that. We have to pass the Affirmative Action Bill to increase women's representation in local and national elections. As I said, at the moment, the parties have captured the process. And because of that, they are creating deep inequality. And that shouldn't happen. We need to find a legislative way of dealing with it. And the Affirmative Action Bill, which still is in Parliament, for me, is the answer to that question. If we don't make our democracy inclusive, a lot of people will continue to resent that democracy does not deliver for them. We also have to make conscious efforts to improve relationships with opposition political parties and Parliament. And it comes to this IPAC issue, where the NDC, I think since 2020, after the elections, have not been attending IPAC. There might be an opportunity for them to get back in, but IPAC itself probably needs some rejuvenation after 30 years. The people who came to borrow IPAC from us, they've done different things with IPAC. If you go to Nigeria, the IPAC has its own secretariat. So the parties can even meet among themselves and to deliberate on any issue they want. They don't have to wait for Electoral Commission to call them. Some people, like in Kenya, where the function for organizing elections is run by a separate entity, the functions for regulating parties, doing the monitoring and all of that is run by another party organization. The function for overseeing campaign financing is also handled by some. So there's a register of parties, for example, in Sierra Leone, also and that they are the ones that oversee IPAC. It's not the Electoral Commission. So that you separate this process, the Electoral Commission is organizing elections. That's its job, right? So IPAC has moved on, and we probably need to go back and say, because what was the reason of IPAC? We wanted a platform where our parties can meet and talk and build consensus. And we shouldn't put any impediment in the ability to do so. Now that we have tied it to the Electoral Commission, it's inhibiting the party's ability to do more than just go and listen to the electoral calendar of the Electoral Commission. All right, so we need to look at IPAC 30 years. Is that my fault? I didn't step on any wire. Okay. I'm almost done. Okay. We also need to undertake regular and structured stakeholder consultation and communication throughout the electoral cycle. So, Electoral Commission gets busy, particularly so now it's finishing the BVR process. DLE is coming. It gets into next year. We have to have another BVR and then the electoral process. So sometimes it's very hard, and it's only through the IPAC system that information is communicated, right? And that's how the Electoral Commission normally should engage. But because the Electoral Commission is doing many things at the same time, even the reforms that we are talking about, when is the Electoral Commission going to focus on that? When is the Electoral Commission going to tackle campaign financing? When is the Electoral Commission going to look at monitoring parties? So there's a lot that has to be communicated, a lot of engagement, and that's where we also want partners to support. If the Electoral Commission can't do it, at least they can create the platforms where the Electoral Commission can participate and form other stakeholders. We also need an urgent need for campaign and party finance reform. I've talked about that. Implementation of key results management reform, including the transmission of polling station results. Everybody agrees that at least at the polling station, when the results are announced, we all believe it. How do we secure that result and make sure that by the time it moves from Kumasi to Accra, is not green or blue or whatever color has changed, right? This is the issue, right? And there's proposals as to how to do the transmission. In Kenya, I observed it, where they scan the result sheet and it's sent online. Everybody can access it. I was with a taxi driver. He was shocked that he could go online and, check his polling station and see the result sheets. But that was very, very helpful because it completely demystified the whole collation process. So rather than actually using the number, breaking down the numbers, no, the result sheet is sent out, everybody can check it. It was still not the official process for confirming results, but at least everybody have a reference point. So when we are going to the collation center, we have all calculated already. Unless you are holding a different result sheet. But if it's the same result sheet, we all know what happened at the polling station. And it's not reliant on somebody else. So how are we going to do that? We've tried to do that since 2016. We've not succeeded. But that's one area that we should look at. And I talked about codifying the processes for correcting mistakes. Do you treat it like a check? When you make a mistake on a check, you sign against it. Or you can cancel and take a different check and fill it. So do you need like a new colored result sheet that shows the mistaked one from the pink? So maybe you need a yellow if you have to amend or make a correction. Then everybody knows that this is the corrected version. But it's standard. Wherever, any constituency you go, it's the same method for correcting mistakes. There's no argument. It's not now we are coming to argue whether we should write it this way and so on and so forth. And there's other issue also is with the time, the adjudication time for parliamentary cases. Like we did after the 2012 petition. We reduced the time to 42 days. Given the problems we have had with parliamentary elections, we need also a shorter time for addressing, because now it impacts on who becomes a speaker. It impacts on who becomes the majority in parliament. And if you don't resolve it, and you wait till the end of the term to resolve it, people will say, oh, well, if this person was not eligible, maybe it would have affected the hung parliament. And we don't want all that governance complication. Let's try and deal with it as quickly as possible. And it's one issue that we have to address because of the impact on other governance processes. Also, codifying rules and regulating abuse of incumbency, tackling misinformation, and then strictly enforcing the Vigilantism and Related Offences Act. And lastly, bringing justice to the perpetrators of election violence, particularly the 8 deaths that were recorded in 2020 general election. We know how it goes. People create issues that, oh, the last time when my people got hurt, nothing was done. Me too, I'm waiting. The next election, I also exert my revenge. But the only way you deal with that is that the police is able to bring to justice those who were the perpetrators of the last violence. Then we know justice is done. And people are not going to use that to create more violence. So it is important, we still have time to go to see where these cases are and understand why they've still not been concluded. So it's one of the advocacies that we have to continue to make. So thank you very much for your attention. And I hope the conversation continues.
Well, I think you ended too soon because I was really soaking it all in. So I was hoping to have more. I could tell you were sweating. You have not even eaten the fufu yet. And you're sweating. But it's a very good presentation. Very, very, informative, very educative. Ladies and gentlemen, please show him some love with a round of applause. All right, so at this point, what we're going to do with this gentleman whom you see there has microphones in his hands. Maybe you have a question for, doctor. If you raise your hand, we'll come to you, and then you ask your question. Your question could be based on the presentation that was just done a while ago. So just raise your hand, and then we'll come to you. So I don't see a hand up yet, or do you see one? Okay, I see a couple of hands up there. Bishop's hand is up. So what we can do is, Doc, I can see you writing as well. So we can take 3 questions, and he addresses them, and then we'll go for another batch of 3. So, Bishop, please.
Thank you, sir. I'm Reverend Benjamin Atamin, sir, the Methodist Diocese Kumasi. Doc, in your presentation, you said Kudeu have raised concern about the appointment of those electoral commissioners, and that in the recommendation, those 2 people should be dropped. But nothing has been done about it. Now my question is, since it has fallen on deaf ears, what is your next step of action? Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Benjamin, there. And I think that the representation, if I heard correctly, Doc was saying it was an appeal to the 2. An appeal for the 2. What I had in mind to ask Doctor was whether the appeal is enough or whether we can do much more than appealing to them to resign. So thank you very much, Benjamin there. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, my name is Faustina Osai-Prempe from Defense for Children International Ghana. So when speakers were giving their speeches, they made mention of inclusiveness, where women, persons with disabilities, all needs to have this space. And in this presentation, the presenter also made mention of the issue about vote buying and monetization. In my organization, we are promoting young women's participation in leadership and decision making. Particularly, we are targeting the upcoming district assembly elections. And with this issue of vote buying, we all know that most of us women, we don't have money to do our campaigns. I don't know if there is a law which give a quota to the amount of monies each party or each person needs to use for this campaigning. Because if there is no law, I think it's something maybe as CSOs and other parties we can start advocating towards. Because I believe if there is such a regulation, it will be able to reduce some of these vote buying. And if a particular political party or a person violates this, then maybe the law can take its course, then the person will be punished. Thank you.
Faustina, thank you very much, Faustina. But for your information, it's not only women who don't have money. Some of the men don't have. Trust me, some of the men don't have. Can we have one more question? And Doctor addresses the... Yes, sir. So if you can come here, Emmanuel. There's a gentleman right here. Thank you very much. And then Doctor will be responding to the questions. Thank you.
I'm Richard Kakari. And before I ask my question, I want to draw the doctor's attention. In your delivery of the welcome address and the purpose for this gathering, you refuse to acknowledge the presence of assembly members and committee members here. Doctor. Okay. My question is, women are not willing to avail themselves for political or party politics because there's a saying, politics is a dirty game. So what do you intend to do to help the women, more women into party politics? Thank you, sir.
Hey, Richard. So if politics is a dirty game, women can't be dirty, eh? Doc, so 3 questions. Your responses, please.
Thank you very much, Reverend. So this is a matter that when the advisory board met and discussed, and it's not just the advisory board, also the Citizen Forum Initiative of IDEC and the CSO platform elections have all looked at this matter. We think the easier way is the appeal, but we also are looking at the legal basis, if it means that we have to go to court, because we believe that the Constitution is clear that the Electoral Commission is supposed to be independent. I think if the individuals, and this is nothing against the individuals personally, because these are competent people who can play roles in many different. If you sent them to the Bank of Ghana, I don't think people would even be too worried that you have somebody who maybe openly shows partisanship at the Bank of Ghana. But you cannot put a partisan in a commission whose job is to regulate party competition. And the Constitution that's why the Constitution made separate arrangements for that. So the appeal is the first step, but if it becomes difficult, from our position, we think the position is not tenable. And therefore, we have to test the legal basis. But ideally, what we are, the way in which we are discussing this, is that as Ghanaians, can't we come to a consensus as to what we want? I don't have a problem if we make a choice that, no, we want the IPAC to become the Electoral Commission. Every party is represented. They can make a collective decision about elections. In the US, this is what happens. In some other countries, that's how the IPAC is, the Electoral Commission is organized. If we want an independent Electoral Commission, then let's do that. So that somebody doesn't feel like, no, the commission is biased and is working, and therefore you can't trust. When you can't trust an empire, Kotoko and Haas are going to play, and the referee is the brother of some striker in Kotoko, nobody will stand for it. Let's not do that. So I think if we can come to a consensus on this issue, it's better. The last resort is going to court, but it doesn't help anybody. I think we are mature in our democracy that we can all sit down and say, this is what we prefer, and go ahead and implement it. So that will be, my response to that.
And Doc, please indulge me. Yes. I know some of you came in quite early. Some of you might not have had breakfast yet. We understand all that. We'll be taking a coffee break in a bit, all right? So we go for a coffee break and then we'll come back and continue. So what you're saying is, for now, we are appealing to their conscience. You're a 9, no, it won't work. Now, forgive me for what.
Don't.
No, Doc, sincerely, you're a 9, no, it won't work.
Give people a chance.
Doc, you're a 9, no, it won't work. I mean, we are in this country where parliamentarians, about 90 of them, say they don't want a settlement. We're told that let's finish IMF dealings, let's finish budget presentation, blah, blah. You and I know. Now, if the second option is what we can go by, that is to say, a court process. Do we have ample time right now? Because again, you and I know the delays in our courts, even if we should start it right now before the 2024 elections, which of course you and I again know that the stakes are very high. Do we have time to do this in court?
Yes, but I am also more concerned about sustaining our institutions. And institutions are stable and will survive if the people have faith in it. So when these matters come up, I think it's to appeal to people's rational behavior and let them understand that if we don't address these things, it might be in the short term an advantage for you. But know that it will be on the other side. Can you accept that we can use... Who thought that 1994 we would have sat down and come up with IPAC? So let me say I'm too optimistic. But I want systems where the people accept and agree that this is what works for us and we do it together. And if it doesn't, then those of us who believe that we should have an independent electoral commission, we should take the matter to court.
All right, so then the question of Faustina.
Yeah, Faustina. I think so, Faustina, there are two questions, but they are related. So you talked about vote buying. So if you look at PNDC law 284, there's a lot of regulation on vote buying. And it's not just buying, it's selling. So what we haven't actually done well is that we also don't arrest the sellers. And actually, recently, the OSP said that that is also an area, yes, that we have to look at. Because if somebody is not selling their vote, there will not be any bias. But we've gotten to a point where we say, the politicians have been chopping our money, and so when it comes to election, we should also go and collect. That is not solving a problem. You are adding to the problem. So PNDC law, there's elaborate, regulations about vote buying, and we've just not enforced them. So we need to do that. But then you raise the question of state funding, and it's a matter that we have also raised, that as we talk about campaign financing, we have to look at ways in which the state can also reduce the cost. So even when the Electoral Commission goes to elections in internal parties, they pay them. The last time the NDC did, I think, what was the bill? I think it was almost close to $1 million something, right? Or 3 billion or something like that. So if the state can absorb some of those costs, it reduces the costs that the parties are. So there are many in-kind ways in which we can reduce expenditure. It doesn't have, all the Afrobarometer reports show that people don't want money to be given to political parties and so on and so forth. But there are many things that can be done in kind to reduce the cost. So, for example, when the campaign period is happening, when you are going to hire any state institution auditorium, you should be able to get cost, for instance, right? So that because the state wants to promote a democratic system. And if parties are going to engage supporters and whatever, once it belongs to the state, you can get it at a subsidized. So there are ways in which we can reduce these things if we look at it. But yes, I agree that state funding of some sort is useful. The politics being dirty. As for politics being dirty, that's why we are here. So I don't know if we're going to use Brillant or Omo or whatever it is that, to wash it. But we are not going to make it cleaner if we are monetizing politics the way it is. If we are getting political vigilantes, mobilizing young people and telling them, yes, go and beat this person, go and I'll sponsor you to go abroad, or I'll get you a post at national security, or this. That is what makes the politics dirty. And those are the things that we have to stop.
But again, I would like for us to take a coffee break right now. But before we do that, Doc, indulge me again. Going back to that of Francisca, talking about the monetization. How do we draw the line? We know somebody spent huge sums of money, giving delegates some 40 Ghana cedis each. He referred to us as what? Transportation. So can you say that is vote buying of a sort?
Well, in the law, it's vote buying.
So how do we draw the line then?
Yeah, so we have to enforce the law. But there are some aspects of it that we have to also have a conversation about. So the busing, busing people, providing water, those kinds of things. Even in the US, there are conversations about that going on. I think some of those things we can look at. But when it's bribery, everybody knows that.
But the person wants to vote for you.
No,
the person says from where I live to where I'm going to vote, I don't have TNT.
Sure. That's what I'm saying, that we have to have conversation, because there are genuine needs that, given our circumstances, you can. And if it's available to everybody, right, then you can say, okay, fine. Yeah. But if you are going to discriminate, and I think sometimes some of these things, we have to put some common sense around it and say, okay, this one we can accept. This behavior we can't. Going to drop bags of rice in people's houses and whatever, it's clearly a way of inducement for people. All right.
Well, I've seen people even give bread, and in a bread, you see that the person has a picture of him on a flyer, and they put it in the bread as well. Now, the last one, what you talked about, the vigilantism. We have had tax going to a court, and then they are fined 1,800. We have tax who go to a television station, they are fined 2,400. So if we are talking about ending vigilantism, and the punitive measures are not that biting, are we really fighting it?
No, we are not. And the Attorney General is to blame, because we know that you can, ask for a much stiffer punishment, and if you think that the current laws does not allow for it, that's why the vigilantism law is there. You can decide to choose that or choose some misdemeanor, but the point is that you add to the impunity. The people who are doing those things know that they have political cover. So the next group of people will go and do it. Now, if we keep doing that and we create a society, maybe today they are not coming after you. But we remember at some point, the political parties were afraid to go and even have a meeting, because they were afraid that they were beaten by vigilantes. So we have to be careful about these things. It's really about building a society that we want to live in. And sometimes the short-term politics and interest takes over. That's why, for me, as I said, these kinds of engagement are useful.
So, ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, Kwame, forgive me, Kwame. Or should I allow Kwame to ask a question? He's the MC for Furikrom, because I wanted us to have the coffee break right now. All right, so Kwame, let's have Kwame ask a question, and then we'll be going for a coffee break. We'll reconvene in some 30 minutes to continue with the program. So Kwame Intri is MC for Furikrom. Kwame, please, your question. Maybe you.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a comment on the inclusiveness and the affirmative action our sister spoke about. I think it's a dicey issue. In the first place, let me say it's not a hopeless situation. In the case of the NPP NDC, I am aware of some decisions that are taken in favor of women, in favor of the youth, and PWDs, I mean people with disabilities, when it comes to filing of nomination fees and all those things. They do make some reduction as far as those groups are concerned. Secondly, in the case of the assemblies, after elections, when appointments are to be made, usually you know the district assembly system, 2/3 elected, 1/3 appointed. During the appointment, specific instructions are made for the appointment of women and people with disabilities into the assembly system. So, for instance, at the Furikrom, we have 1 elected female, we have 2 appointed females. So there are concessions that are made specifically for those groups. But I think the bigger picture is that when you made the fact that when you take a total population of assembly members, 5,000, we have just 400 and so being females. Can we also look at the statistics in terms of how many males contested and how many females contested? There has been that stigmatization where female who want to enter into politics are always classified as something. So most of our female usually do not have that enthusiasm when it comes to those elections. So I think we should also look at that aspect of societal education, societal conscientization in terms of seeing women as equal people who can contribute to our development process, than to seek to bastardize and stigmatize them whenever they make efforts to contest these elections. These are comments I wanted to make.
I hear you. Well, thank you very much, Kwame. Very laudable, good inputs there. I saw a hand up here. Yes, sir. So let's take him, and then we can have the coffee break. We're live on all the CDD social media handles. We're live on Love 99.5 FM as well. Yes, sir.
My name is Noruddin. My contribution is on the issue of the appointments on the Electoral Commission. In fact, we all know election is a process and not an event. And the issue must not be swept under the carpet. Why am I saying this? Before appointments are done to the commission, and the Constitution is very explicit when it comes to various appointments on various commissions, constitutional bodies. The president is mandated to take the right of the in the process, the COSOs were able to get the explicit recommendation from the Council of State. If you were not able to get that, I'll appeal that request for the recommendation or the advice on the appointments on the 2. After we can take it up. Why am I stressing on this? Is it normally when you are going into such elections, we always look at we gloss over a lot of things. But after everything, and there's a great violence or whatever, that is why we will now try gnashing our teeth. But in the whole, what I will plead is the COSOs, the CODIO, and the rest, let's make sure that we request for the advice from the Council of State. In fact, I'm being passionate on this because we, the youth, normally when it comes to issues like this, sit aloof, and the Council of State members there, we know the composition. Most of them are retired chief justices, the CDS, and the rest. We know the composition. They are above 60. So I don't expect, it baffles some of us on the kind of advice they normally give to the president. And the issue has to be taken more seriously. I'm passionate because, in fact, most of the times, some of the decisions made on the developmental pursuits of this country, those at the top, or maybe the elderly, they don't actually look at the future of this country. They don't consider the future of this country. And let's ensure that we strengthen the constitutional bodies, the governance structures. So the COSOs, if the parties have done their bit, and the COSOs are the last resort, I will plead that let's request for their advice, then we'll take it up.
Okay.
Instead of resorting to the legal processes. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a matter, not just the recent situation with the appointment. Since Dr. Farijan retired, we have been to the Council of State. We have written to the president during President Mahamad's time. We made elaborate efforts to remind the president and the Council of State that given the length of time that Dr. Farijan spent, any replacement, you need to have a broad consultation to make sure that the society is accepting of the person because of the importance of elections to our democracy. So we have always said that even though the Constitution says on the advice of the Electoral Commission, like on the advice of the Council of State, it is just a flaw. You can add any other processes that you want to make sure that there's broad consultation. It didn't happen in Madam Charlotte Osei's time, and we saw what happened. It didn't happen in Madam Jean's Paul, and you saw what has happened. So I really think it's a conversation that we have to have, because the lesson from Africa is that you need to resolve that issue. Faith in the Electoral Commission is very important to electoral integrity, and you can't take it for granted. So it's a conversation that we really have to come to some consensus on. Some of it might come as a form of constitutional reform, but there's a lot that still can be done by those who have been given discretion to make these appointments. And I think that's where we play with now. But in the long term, maybe we have to look at the constitutional. Maybe you need parliamentary approval, for instance, to give that legitimacy and support across the spectrum of society.
Well, I think that is at this point in time we can go for that coffee break, and then we'll reconvene in about some 20 or 30.
as good as mine. Now, on our path towards ensuring a better democratic system for Ghana, we want to engage some young people on their stance or what they really think democracy should be and looking at the way forward. My name is Sharon Willis Brown Aqua. Now, September is marked as a month of democracy. And quickly, from the young perspective, what do you think democracy means?
I think that democracy is a system whereby the people's view are also put into consideration in the making of governments.
Democracy is a political system in which eligible citizens partake in decision making directly or indirectly.
It's the rule of an organization by the majority members in it.
People are of the view that politics is the new way to escape from poverty. Do you agree? And do you think politicians are using politics to really make money?
Media agree pa because in Ghana ye way politician ni baby anta Ghana ha school. Enye si when you go man na work school na ye go Ghana ha na ye bre. 90% is used to government in this kankasa.
So if you are given the opportunity to be a politician, would you do that?
Oh, me
You would. And are you sure you wouldn't also fall victim?
Sikana na me diskana ya den. Yes, bua omang no na akoso. Enti wo bua mang na benya kakra di wo ho. Enti wo bua no mpokwa dan ka at least. Mang na kakra ye baby ye mpuntu ndwuma mama for scholarship. Who say you will be on my bread? For money at home. Some of scholarship kakra.
I would like to say that I disagree with everything he said.
Why?
In that he talked about the fact that politicians don't have their kids or children schooling in Ghana. I know of a politician, a minister, that the child is in UPSA.
Okay.
Yes. And she's in UPSA. The same training we are all going through. She's going through the same training. And then I believe that it's not all politicians that squander the money or anything. I happen to be the grandchild of a politician.
Okay. How is that going for you?
It's normal. Like, there is nothing special about it. Like, everything is normal. My grandfather is really working. He is working abroad Dunko. He is the DC for abroad Dunko.
Okay.
He is working very hard, and I know that at a point, because of the position he has, you will have that kind of special treatment. Like, you'll be getting those kind of money and all that. But then it doesn't stop him from working. If you go there, you realize that he has done a lot of work, and I know that same with other people, other politicians. So on any day, if I'm given the chance to be a politician, I'll stand up for it. As a philanthropist, I would like to help people. So I think that that's a bigger platform for me to help people.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I agree with her and disagree with him.
Why?
Yes, because it's not all of them, actually. Yes. Some will help, some are also there because they want to embezzle the funds. Yes, so you can't use someone's character to judge others. Yes, so it's not fully a way to escape poverty. Yes, so some are trying their best, some are giving scholarships, and of course, where I schooled in the Volta region, and I enjoyed some of the scholarships, which was given by an MP. So people are benefiting. It's maybe his constituency. That's his problem. So he shouldn't categorize everyone up.
You can say 90% of the people they are spending it. Politicians, almost 90%. They are almost chopping Ghana's.
Right. What do you think?
Okay. It's like all of them they are disagreeing with him, but like somehow
Now, in our 21st century, we want to ask, has democracy served its purpose for the people of Ghana so far? Your guess is as good as mine. Now, on our path towards ensuring a better democratic system for Ghana, we want to engage some young people on their stance or what they really think democracy should be and looking at the way forward. My name is Sharon Willis Brown Aqua. Now, September is marked as a month of democracy. And quickly, from the young perspective, what do you think democracy means?
I think that democracy is a system whereby the people's view are also put into consideration in the making of governments.
Democracy is a political system in which eligible citizens partake in decision making directly or indirectly.
Is the rule of an organization by the majority members in it.
People are of the view that politics is the new way to escape from poverty. Do you agree? And do you think politicians are using politics to really make money?
Media make agree pa because in Ghana ye way politician ni baby ante Ghana ha oko school enye nsi when you go ama na na woko school na ye go Ghana ha na ye bre 90% is to government ni sikan kasa.
So if you are given the opportunity to be a politician, would you do that?
Oh me yeah.
You would. And are you sure you wouldn't also fall victim?
Sikana na me sikana ya den. Yes e bua omang no na akoso. Enti wo bua mang na benya kakra di wo ho. Enti wo bua no mpokwa dan at least ye kwan na kakra, ye baby, ye mpuntunduma, mama for scholarship. Who say ye wo bi no on mo bre. Young for money I do scholarship kakra.
I would like to say that I disagree with everything he said.
Why?
In that he talked about the fact that politicians don't have their kids or children schooling in Ghana. I know of a politician, a minister that the child is in UPSA.
Okay.
Yes. And she's in UPSA. The same training we are all going through. She's going through the same training. And then I believe that it's not all politicians that squander the money or anything.
I happen to be the grandchild of a politician.
Okay. How is that going for you?
It's normal. Like there is nothing special about it. Like everything is normal. My grandfather is really working. He is working Aberdunko. He is the DC for Aberdunko.
Okay.
He is working very hard, and I know that at a point, because of the position he has, you have that kind of special treatment. Like you'll be getting those kind of money and all that. But then it doesn't stop him from working. If you go there, you realize that he has done a lot of work, and I know that same with other people, other politicians. So on any day, if I'm given the chance to be a politician, I'll stand up for it. As a philanthropist, I would like to help people. So I think that that's a bigger platform for me to help people.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I agree with her and disagree with him.
Why?
Yes, because it's not all of them, actually. Yes. Some will help, some are also there because they want to embezzle the funds. Yes, so you can't use someone's character to judge others. Yes, so it's not fully a way to escape poverty. Yes, so some are trying their best, some are giving scholarships.
Recording in
and
progress.
Where I schooled in the Volta region, and I enjoyed some of the scholarships, which was given by an MP. So people are benefiting. It's maybe his constituency. That's his problem. So he shouldn't, categorize everyone up.
You can say 90% of the people they are spending it. Politicians, 90% they are chopping.
Right. What do you think?
Okay, it's like some of them they are disagreeing with him, but like somehow agree with him. Those who started from poverty to being a politician, like some of them, they will come with the intention of helping, but when they get to the top, then they change their mind because you're not there. They'll be like, oh, they'll do this, they'll do that. But the moment you get to the top, you don't know the pressure over there, which is going to change your mind or something. So some of them are trying their best, some of them they are not trying their best.
Right. As a politician, you need special treatment. Even being a secretary in the school, like you realize that at a point when you are going for a program, you won't go alone. You'll be going with a lot of people, and then it shows that you need to be protected because anyone at all can harm you. So you should change that mindset because the people need the youth.
Right. No, somehow he's not. No, it's not. No, you are not in his constitution.
Wait. It's not even about that. You people are. you all are agreeing, but me, I said I disagree. It's my point of view.
That is his point of view.
Yes.
Right.
And of course, what many man can say, and yes, I'm not saying say all. That's why I said 90%.
But Dixon, anyway, are you sure when you get to the top, you're not going to do the same thing?
He will be the first.
No. Wait.
You don't have the mindset what's going on over there.
Wait.
So you get there.
Wait. Mimi say I'm met where me Gina high politics na family home. Because if I don't work, I will not eat at the end of the day. So I have to work. It's politics and me and family home.
Would you also agree to the fact that they are setting good examples or bad examples for us?
It depends on the one ruling in each of us, like our constituency.
No, from the general point of view.
From my view, like somehow I see the leading president, like he's doing what's more.
They are doing their best.
They are doing their best.
Yes, because it's not easy ruling a lot of people. Even being in the house, you realize that you are just four, and then you are the elder sibling, and then you have to control just 4 children, and you see it's a lot of stress. So he's doing his all possible best to make sure that the country is in shape.
Are the leaders setting good examples for you?
Currently, they are not.
They are not.
Yes.
Why?
Especially the president.
Okay.
Because we have a presidential jet, right?
Uh-huh.
But when he travels, he hires a different one, which is causing a financial loss with his own money. For real? No.
Go on.
Which he is causing a financial loss to the country. I don't see him doing anything actually.
Okay. So you don't think they are?
No, they are not setting any good example.
All right, Dixon.
Me the one you share, mama. They are not doing anything. Omo share more man share.
Do you think there's opportunities for the youth to voice out their concerns?
There is, but even if you say it doesn't get anywhere.
Why? Did you find yourself in any situation?
This one, where will it get to? This interview.
Where would it get to?
Yeah, that's what I'm...
Everywhere.
So if they don't watch it, or they don't know about your...
They will still get to know.
So that's what I would say.
A lot of the youth are getting chance to speak. But omo kakura na nkosi hwe omo fo say yen kola no yen nim nyansan opanyi bi wono ma but yen kola na yen abayi se ne adwunu ma do computer people ntina yes sometimes I want my opportunity na yen ko national television ne ade say na want my opportunity I can say na makai maybe change some things potholes be ebe change makai maybe I hear with the ebi want to be so there. It's who say it's 50-50.
I think yes, because we have the youth have many ways to speak. We have TikTok, Instagram. You don't know who will be watching. You will get the opportunity.
At the table, the very special, beautiful woman amongst us. She's Dr. Mrs. Azuma with the university, and I'm told that she's a gender expert as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for lawyer Dr. Azuma, Mrs. Glad that you have made time to join us, ma'am. You've been seated quietly, absorbing all the information. You're not even checking on your time, whether you're running behind time or disturbing your time or stuff like that. We appreciate it. Thank you very much, Dr. Azuma. So she takes a seat as well. I'd like to welcome to join at the table Dr. Aminu Dramani, also here. He is a political science, politics. There he is as well. I haven't engaged with him in a while, so when I saw him today, I was excited about the fact that I just saw him. I think this is the first time I'm seeing you this year, so it's good. It's good. Please show him some love for me one more time with a round of applause. Thank you so much. Next, I'd like to call on Mr. P. Jantua. Mr. P. Jantua is a development consultant, and he also joins us this afternoon to share his views on the subject matter. All right, so there's a fourth person. You've already seen him. You've already heard from him. He'll be joining us shortly. And I'm talking about Dr. Pumpuni Asante. He'll be joining us shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and thanks very much for your time as well. I'd like each of you to take a minute to tell us what you make of elections in Ghana. Now, we have had 8 successful elections already. A while ago, I was asking that it has been characterized with a bit of violence and all that. But generally speaking, 8 successful elections, your view of it. Take a minute each and then tell us what you make of it. Please grab the microphones and then, we can roll. They say ladies first, so should I start? Okay, Dr. Draman, if we can start with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dave. And let me say thank you for the opportunity. David, like it's been said earlier, in terms of elections, Ghana has not done badly at all. Yes, we've had some violence at various stages of our elections. Looking at the number of elections we've had over the years, and then considering the degree of violence we've had, yes, nothing can replace even a single life. We have generally done well, and I believe that looking at what we're about to talk about now, we're all going to appreciate this fact, and then we will also try to see what can we do to improve the already good things we are doing, so that even the single life we've lost will no longer happen to our elections. So generally, our elections are beautiful.
And that is, if we have learned the right lessons going forward, it will help us. PV Janjua, please, your take on it.
David, once again, let me greet you and our audience here. I started witnessing elections from 1977. I think that was the Unigov era. We had an electoral commissioner in the name of the late Justice Aban, who even before declaring the results, left the country. Thank God that from 1993 to date, we've had quite a number of elections, and we've been improving one after the other. There is still room for improvement, and I only pray and wish that as we move on, we will be able to make good to the rough edges, and at least in the days ahead of us, we will have an excellent election that will bring real transformation to our country and the good people of Ghana. So that's what I can say for now.
All right, thank you very much, PV. And then, Doctor, please.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity. Generally, I think Ghana, we are getting there. It's getting better. And like my colleague said, we have much more to do. I always tell people that if you've not traveled to other countries to see what's happening there, then you think that it's very, very bad in Ghana. But I always thank God that at the end of the day, it's Ghana first, and then we have much to learn and more room for improvement. Thank you very much.
Much to learn, more room for improvement. All right, so Dr. Draman, let me come at you again with the next question. It has to do with the district level elections. I read something yesterday that said it's supposed to take place on the 19th of December. But again, I heard Dr. Asante mention 17th of December. So whether 17th of December or 19th of December, it is in December. From where you sit and from what you know, how will you assess the EC's preparation towards the district level elections for the year 2023?
Again, David. But David, before I touch on this, a student of politics, permit me to say this. Earlier, we seem to attribute a character to politics that the politics doesn't have, calling it dirty. And as students of politics, I will not allow you to, to do that. Politics is not a dirty game. In fact, it is a neat game or a neater game if you and I observe its rules. It is rather you and I who are dead. We bring this debt
smear it on politics. It says 1 man, 1 vote for Ghana. Why do you go to take money and attempt to vote than once? Who brought the debt here? David, I ended there. Good. EC's preparation for the DLE. I will start right away by saying much more needs to be done. Much more needs to be done. I believe that if we were to conduct a kind of research right in this room here, we are likely to get at least one person who is not aware that is coming off. Right? When we go back, let's look at our neighborhood. Acts. People are not even aware. More so with the use of different Ghanaian languages. I don't think this should be a challenge for the EC at all. So that every community will have its own. And then also, unlike the national level elections, where the candidates themselves we see them on TV, we hear them on radio, they go around. Within the assembly area, people may not even know who candidate is. That is the challenge there. All right? Within the area, that small area, people may not even know who is contesting for the positions. And that is a huge challenge. It tells you the level of apathy that exists at the DLE level. And if you check just 3 years back, I think 2011, 15, and 19, you see that participation hovers consistently around 40%. Yeah, you see? That tells you. Right? It tells you the level of participation. And here, not necessarily blame it on the voters or the electorate. People are simply not aware of it. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if on the day of election, people passing by keep asking, what is happening? People will ask. And people will carry their baskets and go to the market, go to the farms, and so on and so forth. And this particular one, the coming one, I don't wish so, but the level of apathy is likely to even be higher.
Okay, so let me come in and ask this question. So, if you compare to the general elections, like you rightly said, the interest is higher than that of the district or local elections. Now, I know that years ago, you would have the EC, the NCC, the Information Services vans go into the district. This is local elections. They'll go into the communities and sensitize people about the upcoming event and even give the opportunity to people to get to know who have put themselves up for the votes and all that. I learned that from 2020 or 2016, 2016 thereabout. Some decisions were taken amongst the EC to use radio and television. So they hardly get to the communities to engage with them. Would you say it's a good move? And if it's not, what can be done about it to raise their awareness and participation in the DLE?
I would say both yes and no. Yet, in the sense that, as I said earlier, radio now has penetrated deep into our communities and for than years back. And what makes it even more beautiful is the use of different languages, so that everybody his or her share. All right, language barrier has been removed. EC, I won't suggest that it offload all that to the media. All right, the media should play a role. The EC, through the state institutions like NCCE, must also play their role. For instance, you go to a lorry park, then you see the NCCE car there making this announcement or something like that. That is a role, whilst the media is also playing its role. So both of them have to be involved so far as voter education
send. This way, it's a critical way we can whip up local level interest in this DLA. So long as people are not aware of it, so long as people are not educated about the need for them to participate in this election, then that big objective of decentralizing everything will not give us the results desired.
PV, let me ask you to also take a bite at this, as to the EC's preparedness towards the DLE. And I would like to give you less than a minute to do this. Indulge me on this. I'm working with time here. Less than a minute. What do you have to say in terms of the EC's preparedness?
I would say it's like the way Ghana attach our resources to football. We put all our attention. We put all our attention and resources on our national team, the senior national team, Black Stars. Then we forget about the
female national team,
the females,
the
under 17, yes. Because we started these elections in 1988 or 1989, and the interest was very encouraging. So let's ask ourselves, what has happened? Now, let's say the truth. It was only when the politicians tried to eat into the district assembly elections, that is why the interest have gone down. Because as at 1989, when we started it, it was like we are voting in a small area, and they say small is beautiful. So we were able to communicate with the contestants and so on. So the platform was set for them. We didn't know what came from heavens to dismantle the lifeline. Now we are seeing the interests have gone down considerably. 2, we can't be practicing this at this assembly election for over 40 years and there will be no change. At least we need to empower our assemblymen and women. Can you tell me that if there's a pothole in front of my house, of my house, the assemblyman or the assemblywoman cannot do anything about it? It has to be referred to the main assembly. We should give them authority, we should give them responsibility, and we also give them funding. Because every unauthorized building can be found in an assemblyman's area. Commonsensically, how can we issue a building permit without the knowledge of the assemblyman? We are behaving as if there's nothing at stake for us. And at least there should be some reward for our assemblymen and women. When we start doing that, you will see quality people. I'm not saying that people who are in there are not quality, but you find people who are more dedicated. Because you see, in time past, our rural banks were not doing very well. And the reason is that you go to a rural bank in the village, you have the head teacher in the local authority school, who is the board chairman. He knows next to nothing about finance. But once UNDP helped them with capacity building, you now find prominent people from that area with various professional backgrounds running these rural banks. And you see how the rural banks are performing. So equally, we need to attach much importance to our assembly election, because that is where the development starts from. We can even put them in charge of the collection of property rate. And when those monies are being used to invest in that local area, what do you think is going to happen? So we need to attach more importance to it. Then also, I think the EC should publish its election year activities calendar way ahead of time, so that we can also put pressure on the government to make sure funds and resources are allocated on timely basis.
I like the points you just made, PV, that their timetable should be made available. Now, per my checks with the EC last night, they have drawn their timetable. They have made it available. Only funding is a challenge. It is not coming in promptly. Now, conducting an elections, for example, the district level election, they need to do the registration, the appointment of returning officers, exhibition, nomination, platform mounting, and elections will be held. They've just done the registration and appointment of returning officers, and the exhibition is yet to be done. In fact, per the checks, the exhibition is supposed to take place between the 3rd and the 9th of October. So when we're talking about the preparedness of the EC, and the funding is not coming in, although they have their timetable they want to work with, if the funding is not coming in, how do we surmount this? What do we do?
You see, if the funding is not coming, in fact, with this limited registration, we are making noise about it. It was only when they started about a week ago that EC came to organize a press conference. And now they were telling us they have what? Financial constraints. So it's like the person who gave me the job, I cannot look at his face and tell him exactly what are my challenges. And that is exactly what is going on. So I think we should, once the calendar is published, we own it as our duty to make sure that on timely basis, the resources are made available to the EC to perform, because the political party or even the political party who assume government, they have their own priorities. And this should be a sort of a priority to the government too, because we can't leave them for them to do whatever they want to do. In fact, that's this morning I said, look, we don't have to allow any political party to assume office again with that party's own what? Manifesto. We should have a plan. And once you have a national plan, all of these will feed into it. The civil society organizations and the political parties will also plan with their limited resources into the plan of the EC. And you will see that we will be moving on perfectly.
If any of you have questions, please note it down either on your phone or the notepads, given to you. We'll give you time to, ask your questions as well. But let me come to you, Dr. Azuma. Now, in most of the presentations we've had this afternoon, it looks as if women participation is very limited, very low, even at the district level elections level. What do you think can be done to whip up the interest for women to be able to be in there?
Thank you very much. I think this also transcends to the national as well. It's very sad when the man made a statement that women don't like to participate because they think it's dirty, so they don't participate. That's a perception. Because women make decisions in the house. But the issue is the cultural dynamics in there. How do we encourage the women, even in our homes? Because you have leaders. When Doc was talking, I said, every political party has a woman in it. If we are even transcending to the local level, people who vote, they are members of political parties in there who are women. But the question is that, what does she think if she's going in there? What can she contribute? They are educated women. They know the dynamics of the systems, how it works. But the question is, he's going to compete with a man on the same platform, even though she has multiple tasks ahead of her, right? Does she have the encouragement from her family? Is she having the support from the community? Normally we say, oh, they are putting square pegs in round holes. I don't agree with putting square pegs in round holes. There are a lot of women who have the ability, the capacity. They've been class prefects before. They've been school leaders before. So in those schools where we had single-sex schools, are there men who are school prefects? Are there men who are class prefects? They select them. But when they come to us in the house, hey, I don't want, the woman said, I said, Madam, I want to go and stand for elections. You know, KNUST, the first female, she's my student. And she was in my class. She told me, Madam, what can I do? I said, go for it. You can. Go for it. We encourage them. We talk to them. We mentor them. Most females who are in parliament have been mentored by men. But do we mentor them? Do we tell them, you said it's a dirty game. So how do the men play that dirty game? That women cannot play. You are playing the chess. Our grandmothers taught us how to play Owari. Right? Isn't it a skill? It is a skill. But why is it that when they are moving, every person is a political being? Even the decision to take your dress is political. So why is it that we cannot move that? And then we discourage them from going there. Hey, for me, dear, I don't want anybody to be insulting my daughter, or I don't want anybody to be insulting my wife. then we start tagging them and stigmatizing them. Mobaku konini, obaya santua, iron lady. But look at the world when it was ruled by women. Our queen mothers and their political leaders. Please, it is our orientation. It is the perceptions that we have, the cultural dynamics in our communities. I say even the language that we use when they are going there. Dramani is my colleague in the same faculty. I always say that, look, even the way I walk shows that I work with authority. But the lady should have confidence and the boldness that we will step out. Step out, you make a mistake, but step out. Take that first step. Show that you know how to calculate the mass, because when you are going to market, you don't have the list in your hand, it's in your head. But you remember that you are buying tomatoes, 2 cedis. That skill that you have, bring it to the playing field. We have the women's soccer team. Are they boys? They are not boys. It is the women that led. Please, the women, let's encourage, and the men and support us. You see, is dynamics, support us, encourage us, encourage your girl child for that position. Then don't tell her that they'll insult you. Everybody will insult you, but she has to have the tenacity, the courage to stand. Right? And tell her that if they insult you, sometimes you close your ears, you didn't hear, then you go on. Because you say, insults does not break bones, does it? No. Go on and face the world. So let's encourage them and let them get mentors to also usher
How many
them.
women in this auditorium this afternoon have been challenged? If you have been challenged, raise your hand. All right. Only one hand. All that she said, only one hand. Yeah. Yeah. I want to see more of you there. But let me just step back. Because the way you spoke with a lot of confidence and a lot of boldness. If you are on a platform campaigning in my district, I will vote for you. Why have you to put yourself up?
Oh, I'm in KUST. I'm a lawyer by profession. But anyway, I was the first woman to be Katanga Hall senior tutor.
Nice one.
When it was changed. So you can imagine how the whole world was. Now Reverend has changed his face. You see? The whole world was against me. Why? Because they were like, the guys were afraid because they were like, this woman is so strict. This woman is so disciplined. Because in school, if you don't come for my class, there's no way you write exams. 3 times, the whole university, you write exams. So they are like, oh, this woman is strict. Now he's going to bring Katanga to become like dormitory. There are rules. You said there are rules. Let's play by the rules. Do you get it?
Yeah.
Why I'm Thai? I want to be mentoring people and coaching them.
And you've done a great job.
You've
done a great job. I remember speaking to the SRC president of KNUC when she won, and she gave, applause to you as well. So good job done. But in all this, there are people who sit back and they are like, the monetization of our elections is another, problem. And I would like to start with you, Dr. Mrs. Azuma. It is disturbing our politics because bottom line is people do not go there with the intent to help build their communities, their metropolis, or even the nation. They are there to make money. And this time around, unfortunately, they're not even hiding it. They're making us aware of the fact that, listen, it's about money, business, and nothing more. How do we manage this monetization of our elections?
It's a problem. But I think that if each person would tell yourself that, look, I have principles, I have virtues, And what are my principles? My principle says that I am supposed to choose A over B because A can work. Why don't you go for A? You see, we always say, I don't know, the Christians and the Muslims, we say that Esau sold his birthright. Father, my reverend, if I am wrong, then you quote me. For a morsel of bread. You see that we sell our birthright for a morsel of bread. You sell your birthright for 200 CDs. I always, 50 CDs. That is what I tell the students. If the person gives you the money, how much are you selling your birthright for? Your price is far above rubies. You are unpurchasable. So if you are stooping so low to sell your conscience, it means that you are selling your conscience even for 4 years. How can you even dictate the pace? You don't have any value. Be principled. Everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. You are selling your conscience. So if the person is going wrong, how can you say it? How can you say it? Then you come and say that Esau sold his birthright for a month. You have sold yours. You have sold yours. Do you get it? But if you can stand and say that, I will not collect it because I know that you cannot do the job. Next time, the person will say, hey, as for Mr. A, if you are going there, he will even disgrace you. Right? So, the buck stops with us. We are going there to collect. We are going there to collect. We go to there and collect.
It's a cocoa season.
Cocoa season what? Cocoa season that you pay a price. You are paying a price that you cannot recover. And destiny will judge you for that. Just destiny will judge you.
That is if you have a conscience. When your conscience is being judged.
As for that, if it is not today, it will surely come to pass.
Beautiful. So let me come to you, Dr. Dramani, with this question. I mean, so we're talking about vote buying here. How do you say vote buying is impacting free, fair, and credible elections?
You don't need any scientific study or rocket science to tell the effect of vote buying. But even before I come there, I want to say with all that if we should rely on, if you like, if you permit me, let me call it conscientism. Lest people have conscience. People should have their values. It will take us donkey's years to get there. What we need to do is to look at issues of poverty in our system. That is very critical. Look, these people who are taking or eager, taking money, people are even prepared to kill to take the money. The bottom line is the degree of poverty in the system. And then compared to the level of corruption that we see, level of demonstration of affluence by people who enter politics, of course not all of them, people who enter politics and overnight see the kind of story buildings they put up. All right, you live in a neighborhood with a teacher, then he's made a DCE. Within 3 years, the teacher, with all respect, and the police who pay for a set shop for him by another neighbor, now has put up magnificent building on the water body, now parks lace and other expensive materials to be sewn for a whole driver to come and pick. And you tell me that I should have conscience because I don't know what money does. Please, that will not work. Let's look at the roots. Poverty.
But this poverty, is it intentional then, based on what you're saying?
Some, I will not even allow you to end, David. I will tell you some of them are self-inflicted. Poverty in this country, some of them are self-inflicted. If you are eager, promoting, encouraging the system to produce rice, and I am here because I'm importing the rice and I have political power, I'm able to sabotage you and get the machines to remain there rotten. And poverty in that area, you tell me, is not self-inflicted? Please, we are doing it to our own self. Who is forcing us to do galamsey the way we are doing it? Is that the way to mine? Is that the best? What is even the country getting out of it? Look, there was a day, it was shown on one of the stations, I've forgotten, an old woman whose house has been, they've mined the thing in such a way that her this one was hanging, all right, just to force the woman to go there. Then people went there, and I saw a man of God praying for what? There's nothing God cannot do. We all know that. But some of them, it needs this.
So how do we get that change?
So,
that mindset change. What will it take for us to get it?
It's in relation to this, elections. Let's do things that would discourage the giving.
So give us instances, examples.
One thing I would recommend for this country is for us to go back at our party financing. And here I recommend cost sharing. Cost sharing. As a people, we can sit and look at which aspects of our elections must be borne by the state and which to be borne by the political parties. Not the MPs, not the others. It should be borne by the political parties. You know, now as we sit here now, hardly we can tell where individuals are even getting their money from to run elections. And when you vote them into power, the next thing is, how do I recoup my investment with profit? So the interest is not to serve. So anything that will bring money, priority is given to that. So let's look at it so that we take these individuals' funding sources out of our system.
But looking at the number of political parties we have and the state of economy, can we really absorb it?
Where there is way. If we have a nation that can say we are getting committed, strong commitment to peace, nothing would be expensive for us or too expensive for us. It all boils down to one thing that he said, planning. Look at this waste that we let go. If we are able to, you just look at it. You go, you see Ghana Water Company pipe best. You have worked with your own blood, with your own sweat. You've made your own money. You've bought your own credit. You bought your own phone. You are using your own energy to call them. Come and fix it. 1 week later, go there and see it. It will still be there. The water will be gassing out. And at the end of the day, you will have to pay that bill. If we will pay attention to some of these things, I call them within the next minute, they are there to fix it. We'll be saving. All right? So it is not something that we cannot do. Just that we've not prioritized that. If we plan and we prioritize this, we can share cost. We develop the rules of the game. We share the cost. And then after developing the rules of the game, we enforce the rules. Rule enforcement is one challenge that we have. Thank you.
Well, PV, let me ask items as well. We want to manage the monetization in our elections. How do we go about it? Give me some practical, ways by which we can tackle this.
David, you see, it's very simple. If I'm going to take somebody on as a houseboy, why should a houseboy pay me for serving me? I don't know if you understand my point. Why should a houseboy pay me, the master, for serving me? So if somebody comes to you to offer you money to vote for him, it's like, why do I have to pay you for serving you? And you also take the money. You see, taking money from somebody to vote is like you've been paid at the end of the month and you want to go and pay your tithe. Even without deducting the tithe, the money is not sufficient. So you better take the money and go and pay the tithe and have your peace of mind. My point is that money that you've been taking for the last 30 years, it has never changed your life. So common sense should tell you that, look, somebody is trying to exploit you. It wasn't like that from 92, 96. You don't know why these things have become part of us. But I can say that we have some politicians who have a defective upbringing. And they will do whatever they want to do to exploit people. And that's exactly what is going on. So within our own parties, we should start dealing with the black sheep among ourselves. Other than that, we will never find peace. God will not come from heaven to do this thing for us. We have to do it on our own. Let's try and get people out of our various political parties. People are very corrupt. People are thieves. They have improper upbringing, and they will do whatever they can to get whatever they want. And we know them. And the young ones here, if you belong to a political party, stop that godfatherism and so on and so forth. That is what is killing us. You see, all the challenges we've had with elections in Ghana is from the political parties. Now, if it is wrong for you to pay money at the national level, what about our internal elections? It is also wrong. So we must be very careful. Where this country is now, we must be very careful. We shouldn't allow people with dubious characters to take the front row of our political parties. They don't think about you. Now, what is going on is that most of the people in the political parties, they've given monies to the young ones. Go and take your master's degree. Go and do your PhD. Go and do degree. When you come to power, I will find a job for you. Once they come into power, what they do is that they will look for a job for their own children and their nephews and their nieces first. Then they will tell you the civil service is what? Full. You can't complain. Do you know why you can't complain? Because you've given over 20,000 cedis to go and acquire a master's degree. You will be the most ungrateful person. But the thing is eating you. So we must be able to speak to some of these issues. Now, we also have to find means that we can build our political parties to a certain level that it will get to a point we can fund our own political activities, so that the financiers will not have the opportunity to come and give money to our executive. Then once we assume power, they will sit somewhere and tell our government exactly what they should do. Why should somebody in a political party who vote for a branch executives, constituency executives, regional executives, national executives, that person will just be voting without any financial obligation? Why? We need to change our ways of doing things in our various political parties. Once are changed, I guarantee you this country will also change.
All right, so Dr. Draman wants to make a point. I'll come to you, Doc. Please forgive me. But you talk about we exposing the black sheep, the political parties. Yeah. We're doing away with them. How real is that? Picture this. In my own small way, I have a wife. I have a mother. I'm sitting in an office. Somebody comes and wants something done, which of course is wrong. And I say, no, I'm not going to do this. He puts a brown envelope, fat envelope, 200 Ghana cedis notes, plenty. I don't take it. I go home and I tell my mom, oh, the crowd be discovered by a manju. The insult she will rain on me. Even my wife, she will tell me that we need money for A, B, and C. And so we have made our system, even in our churches, forgive me, even in our churches, if I go do wrong, I will be sanctioned. If the rich person in the church does it wrong, because of harvest and all the other things, it is overlooked. Bottom line is, in our society, we have monetized everything. How can we do away with these black sheep and say we're going to go for the real people? How do we do this? And Dr. Azuma, I know you want to comment. I'll give you an opportunity, please. PV.
David, you see, the whole thing is that wrong is wrong, right is right.
Yes.
Right. So, when the thing is not beneficial to all of us, what do we do?
Our conscience is already seared. We don't care.
No, but you see, it is still working against us.
Yes.
It's a very few in the political parties who are enjoying. I remember some time ago, they wanted to do something, and I said, look, nobody is going to do this. Then all the people were against me. I said, okay, let's mark time. You see, if something is not working in your favor, or if a system is not providing equal opportunities and equal access, what do? You have to rebel against that system and make sure it is changed. It wasn't like that. There was an unemployed guy who took some 100,000 Ghana cedis in a taxi plus 5,000. And the guy said the way he was brought up in such a way that whatever doesn't belong to him, yes. So some of these things, we need to revisit our past. Madam was saying women. They don't know what they have. In our Asante and Akan tradition, the women remains our consultants when we are finding it difficult to even resolve what issues. Asante for we say yenkubusa abrewa yenkasi yenkubusa ejada. So the women are the real what administrators even in our traditional what setup. The point is they have to rediscover what God has given to them and use it to help society.
Okay.
But I'm saying that we need to flush out corrupt people within our parties. We need not to even praise them. Some people have acquired wealth and somebody said, I've packed some dollars.
Yeah.
If you pay 5,000, I'll pay 10,000.
MP for BBNE.
Yes. And there was another MP who said, oh, I paid to become what? An MP.
Yeah.
And we are just watching them.
Yeah.
When you see them, when we go to demonstration and people are all over them, worshiping them as if they are gods, you don't know what is wrong with us.
So I remember in 2016, there are young men who came to me, and we have programs. And when they are leaving, I will sometimes have to give them TNT from my pocket. So sometimes 50 cedis, sometimes 100 cedis, depending on what I have. Now, as we speak, if I tell you the number of cars they have, none of the cars is home use, Tia Roberts. And the matches they have in Accra and Kumasi, within 6 to 7 years. And PV, you know some of the cars I've talked to you about them. So, but I would like to mention names here. Dr. Azuma, I'll come to you short. But Dr. Draman, you wanted to make a point, please.
Yes, still on the monetization.
Yeah.
I just want us to see how serious this issue is. And I think that we are not even attaching seriousness to it to the level expected. I know parents here will testify this. Do you know that now we are even training our little ones in school to also acquire this habit?
Oh, yes.
Yes, they are good in school elections. They will send toffees. This is how it begins. So the child is now, yes, they will send toffees to go and campaign in schools. Yes. That's what is happening now. So already this child is acquiring the habit of having to give before you get positions. So David, the issue is a serious one that requires national dialogue.
And indeed, even to add to that, not just about elections and all, you write an examination, your child doesn't do well, you know your child didn't do well, parents are paying bribes to see their children enter big schools. So when you do this for your child to see, what are you inculcating in the child? Dr. Azuma, please.
You see, it's very, very sad because the core of our socialization process, the fabric, the family, which is the core, is missing it. Like my brother said, how did you bring up your children? You as a parent, do you have principles? Do you have values? Because we say you train up the child in the way he should go. What principles are we? Sometimes I sit down and I weep. What principles are we giving? Because the school is just a secondary agent of socialization. The primary is the family, the home. Look, the things that are going on, sometimes it's so sickening. It's sickening. Ghana, we are sick, sorry to say. You see, we go to church on Sunday. We go to the mosque on Friday. Where is our values? Where is the values? Our grandmothers and our fathers will be weeping in their graves. They'll be weeping in their graves. Those who fought to bring this country to independence, they will be weeping in their graves. Because we don't have any values. Parents, where are the parents? I always say, where are our fathers? Where are the fathers of this nation? Where are they? The mothers, where are they? We just have boys and girls and adults. And we point fingers to others. We point fingers because we are not training. Because we've left everything to the secondary system. Our children learn from social media. They learn from what they hear. Information is power. What information do you give to your child in the morning? He brings something even from school. It is not his or hers. What do you say? Reverend, sometimes it's so sickening because I'm in the university and some of the things I see them and I'm like, you see, if I have a cane, I'll beat you up. And sometimes you have to call students and tell them, this is not right. Some of them will listen. Some of them will not.
And it's not just in the universities, even the senior high school.
Senior high, they are coming. That one, don't even go there. Don't even go there. Ghana had values, whereas the values that we have, we are borrowing. Eurocentrism. We borrow from outside. Where is our cultural norms? Our belief systems. I'm a sociologist. The belief systems, where is it? I speak with passion. You see?
I can tell so. I can tell so. I think she deserves a round of applause, doesn't she? The passion. And the pain in there as well. There's pain in there as well. But we all have a role to play. Let's live up to our responsibilities. Now, we'll be wrapping up shortly so we can engage with you some more because I can tell some of you have questions to put across and all. Let me come to you, Dr. Draman, again. Now, during Dr. Asante's presentation, he made mention of the fact that the recent appointments of two non-party activists of the ruling party should honorably resign from their position. I would like for you to have a bite at that because we're going into a very crucial election in 2024. The stakes are definitely high. If you're not careful and something untoward should happen from the EC's perspective, I'm sure it will not augur well for all of us. So whether they'll resign or not, how do we handle this?
You've hit on a very important issue, afternoon. The coming election, the 2024 election, is a very hot one. If you look at the fact that one is saying, we want to break the 8, the other is saying, you are not performing, we are coming. Each of them is determined to win the election. You see, this is happening because we've not appreciated enough the fact that, like Dr. Said, election is a process. We are seeing it as an event, and therefore we wait when it's elections that we begin to do. It should be seen as a process, so that right from the point of forming the EC, if the constitution is not what is helping us as a people, what prevents us from looking at it? So that we get to right from there. The security services, if the appointment, maybe as a result of the constitution, is worrying us, why wouldn't we take another look at that? So that already we establish the process. The institutions that are to oversee these things are well constituted. Now, coming to the specific issues of the two appointees, it's very unfortunate where the referee, the game is openly known to belong to one side. How neutral can you be? You see, once neutrality is compromised, even if you are trying to do it well, it gets negative interpretations, or it is likely to get negative interpretations. But if you, the referee, you have no taintings on you, you don't have any dots on you, you can take wrong decision, and yet it will be difficult even for others to see. All right? So I think that it's very unfortunate. And now there's almost very little we can do about these situations. Is those in government, or is the government prepared to listen to the public in the form of the... All right? And sometimes some of these things, you, the media, are also not helping us enough. All right? Pick some issues. Hit on them. Sensitize the people. Educate the people. Media, you are a crucial tool in our, maintenance of our democracy. But you are not playing the role well enough for me. I'm not saying you are doing your best, but I think that the media in this direction can do much more better. If an assemblyman wants to campaign, for example, does he have the money to come and pay to you before you give him the platform? He doesn't. How are you reorganizing your social corporate responsibility to to accommodate some of these things? All right. These are critical issues we can look at. And again, the need for the CSOs and the media in a manner that can help bring stronger pressure to bear on government regarding some of these decisions, very important.
Well, I would say that I agree with you to a large extent, so the things you've said. Multimedia ranks a very different system. I mean, if anybody here who's an assemblyman or aspiring MP or whatever can attest to it, our system is very different. We are very objective, and we stick to what we do. Other platforms do things, differently. But again, there's a challenge. I'm happy this morning when I had, a conversation with Dr. Asante. He said things as they should be said. Even here, I asked a particular question about the vigilantes and the hooligans, and he said he blames the Attorney General to some extent. Point is, how many people could have that testicular fortitude to say some of the things he said? Point is, yeah, and again, for people like yourself, there are occasions you call people from KNUST, and they feel very reluctant to come and speak. They see themselves as lecturers. They are scared what might happen if they come to speak truth to power. So in as much as you're challenging us, the media, speak to your colleagues as well. Let them also know that, listen, we need you to share the information and the knowledge to the people out there. PV, we're winding up. Again, I keep saying that 2024's elections is crucial. You and I know what is happening in some countries in Africa, very close to us. Again, in Ghana, many people are not satisfied with some things that are happening by way of governance. So we've seen and heard the Occupy Lobby House, Occupy Bank of Ghana, is the country and all that. What advice should we gather from all that is happening around us, neighboring countries, that the satisfaction that people have in Ghana per governance going into 2024?
David, Ghana is no exception from the other countries. Probably ours is just in line. So we need to put our house in order. Whatever that is not right with us, we need to speak out. We don't have to treat whoever it is with kid gloves. I remember in 2005, July 25th or so, when our current president was being vetted as what? A foreign minister. He was still holding on to one of his core values, that the office of the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice is superfluous. What do we see today? He has been in power for 7 years. He ended up creating an office that he knew very well that is not going to work, OSP. We are just throwing our good money away. So it is, you see, if we don't pour out what is within us now, the next president will come and behave in the same way. So we should look at them and tell them, me, whoever knows me, I will tell you, whether you go and die or you survive, I don't care. Because you see, the way things are going on in this country, and we have some CSOs, they are more than political parties. Some CSOs are more than, you find them in even political party rallies. We should find a way to set eligibility criteria for our CSOs so that when they speak, they will be accepted. Not those ones are classified as what? Amphibian CSOs. They want to live in the water and at the same time, no. We see now, Ghana, we are at a stage that when we are going in for a loan, we are being asked our debtors to come and do what? Guarantee us. Ababa Beni. Who Papa Bush said, "You wouldn't can one somebody waiting a move." Koko ase driver, boto ama, sika ama, ebu ama, car no so and second. And you see the way things are happening. Everybody knows that Galamsey is going on. And at the rural areas, we are having children who are being born with defective body parts. Then somebody will tell you, go and bring what? Evidence. And even we have in our constitution that before anybody can be prosecuted for electoral offense, the consent of the AG must be sorted for. So who is, at the end of the day, who is going to be prosecuted? Something happened at Kumawu. At the start of the elections, the returning officer was able to convince the reps of MPP and NDC to sign the pink sheets before elections.
Yeah, oh yes. Oh yes.
You find Dr. Sribo Kweku at that point as if he is trying to boss a woman or whatever it is. Now, to the two parties, nobody even want to find out what exactly the returning officer told them that made them to sign what? Those forms. So if it was this is happening in a general election, do you know what was going to happen? Nobody have been punished. So what tells you that this EC is going to do something better? Because most of the people who are found on electoral offenses, they belong to the ruling party.
Okay.
And they can never be prosecuted.
So, PD, what would you want to say to CSOs, including CDD and Co? What would you want to say to them?
We shall know them by their fruit. We will know them by their fruit. Some of them, they are stomach ones. They are not practically. They are not doing anything.
All right, I hear you, Dr. Dramani. What do you expect from the CSOs, especially as we go into 2024 with all the crucial, elections ahead of us?
I think the CSOs, to me, you see, if they behave like you just mentioned, if you set up or establish a business based on political support, the depth of that political support would collapse your business. All right? CSOs must know who they are. All right? You are there, you are representing society. That's what they call civil society. That's what you are representing. So if you wet your soul, you seek funding from UNDP, not from what is the NPP chairman's, not from Untumi. Not. So if you go to seek funding from Untumi, you come here, what can you present over here? All right? So seek your sources of funding, which is the root of your strength, from UNDP.
Okay.
So please, UNDP, anytime they come, open your doors. Let them do. So I think this is what will give them their independence.
I hear you.
Yeah.
So we have some 15 more minutes to wrap up. We'd like to come to you, audience. If you have a question, you raise your hand. Any of them can address your question for you. Dr. Pumpuni Asante is still with us. If you have a question for him, he still will address it for you. So if you raise your hand, we'll come to you. Any question? All right, so I can see a hand up. Okay, 2 hands up. This gentleman here. And then there's a lady, back there as well. Let's have her question too.
I just want to make a little contribution. I think I've really enjoyed the discussions. There is a man called Niccolo Machiavelli. He wrote about a prince. He described the politician as a prince. And one thing he said is that the politician will tell you, go here, but he will not go there.
Yeah.
So when you look at this, it is not we who are painting politics. It's politics has been there. But what I like is that there are people in Ghana who have done politics cleanly. And we should be learning from them. There is another guy called Jeremy Bentham. He said,
and it was, I thought even I could cook. I cooked from my house.
Wow.
And send it to school in the morning. 5:30, it is there. And then the vice chancellor, I went out to all of them. I said, Prof, can I have something I'm cooking for the students? So then I'll go to this person. Can I? By 12 o'clock, I had money for the first 2 days' meal for the students.
I hear you.
Do you get it? So it is how you pitch yourself. Where somebody will not give you. I remember somebody insulted me, but the insult doesn't kill. So me, I'll go on. Do you get it? And now they started the school feeding program for the people, and they took the thing, and then they have food bank and all those things. So please don't put all Ghanaians in one category that we are no good.
Okay.
There are good ones and there are bad ones. Go for the good ones. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well. Can we have one more question and then we'll wrap up? Anybody who has a question? All right, so I can see a hand up. Please hand the microphone over to him or her. It's okay, it's a him. Final question, please.
Thank you very much. My question goes to Dr. Asante. During his presentation, the CDD have made some recommendations to the Electoral Commission concerning employment of its temporary staffs during the main elections. And I wanted to know what are the measures that CDD has put in place to ensure concerning the minimum qualification. Well, what I've noticed is most often temporary staff that are being recruited to help the EC staffs, they are more than the EC staffs themselves. So, and then most of them, they are being recruited based on the number of times that they've worked with the EC. They don't have the minimum qualifications. And some of them have difficulties in countings and then numbering and then other stuffs, those basic mathematics. And we see that most often, those are some of the issues that we do face during our main elections. So what are the measures that have been put in place to ensure that the temporary staff that have been appointed meet those minimum qualifications?
Well, thank you very much. I think after the 2012 petition, as I said, it became part of the reform recommendations that I think presiding officers have to be degree level, and I think it was put in the CI. So right now, that's it. But the problem you are talking about is a problem really of the quality of education. And it's not just even the electoral officers, it's polling agents, party agents. That's where sometimes you get a fight because the calculation is a problem. And then even when you have to write it in words, that also becomes a problem. So that points to the training. It's just that both the Electoral Commission and even the political parties have to understand that the training has to be a lot more detailed and maybe longer than they planned. Because we have to recognize that the quality of education at a certain level is not good enough. And you begin to see those things when you are doing this kind of exercise. And oftentimes, they don't really do the training for long. It's a very quick, 1 day, 2 day training, and it doesn't help. So we have to really invest in the training. In the past, sometimes development partners have supported the political parties to do it. The political parties, they don't do the training, then it means that you're going to have problems for everybody. People will go and fight there on things that really they don't understand or they cannot do. So maybe the recommendation is that the training has to be more detailed. We have to take our time and make sure people understand it. Anyway,
Doc, my question is, what the CSOs and then CSOs like CDD is putting in place to ensure that the district offices of the Electoral Commission adhere to that minimum qualification level?
Oh, okay. Yeah, as for the minimum, so when they are, I think you raised an important point because this is not a process that we've monitored. For example, how is the Electoral Commission, recruiting? And are they actually recruiting people who, are qualified? And it's something that we need to add to our observation process. Because if it doesn't go well, we'll all come back and say maybe the people were not qualified. Thank you for that, pointing that out. But I think we really need to make sure that there's more time spent on the training.
Okay, so at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, please let's put our hands together as we say a big thank you to Dr. Azuma, who is a gender expert from the KNUST. She's a lawyer. To Dr. Aminu Dramani, who loves politics. He's a political student, a political scientist. And also many thanks to PV Jantua, a development consultant. One more time, a round of applause for them, please. And then many thanks to Codeo and the Citizens Coalition, as well as the UNDP, for making this happen in Ashanti region. We ask that we do more of this. And all the conversations and all the ideas that we have shared today, we pray that it doesn't just remain in this room, but it will put out there and put to very good use. Thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of the day. God bless all of you. Now, we'll be taking a group picture. So if you don't mind, please let's all gather here.